All right. It looks like we are streaming. We will wait and see if someone shows up. Okay. Because, right. Does that mean we are on? I'm not sure that's the one. Oh, why must everything be so difficult? Do you know? Anybody know? Channel dashboard. Videos. Oof. Nope, it's not on there. So, my darlings, how are we this fine Wednesday evening? I'm hoping very well. Right. Does that mean we are on? Okay. Oh, we have 4 viewers, it says, and I'm not seeing anything in chat. Okay. There we go. Hi, everybody. Let's see. Are we still streaming? Did it stop? No, it says it's still going. Maybe I'm in the wrong one. Let's see. Okay. We are attempting to do this. I'm supposed to be able to see if you're chatting, and I'm not seeing it. Isn't that great? Okay. Oh, there we are. All right, I can see you now. Horror readings by Dizzy and Heidi and Tiffany. Thank you all for coming. Oh, look, there you can see your own chat. Nice. Well, if you guys have any questions, please ask. It's great to see you all, and hopefully we'll get a few more. I will try and let people on Twitter know we're here. Oh, am I logged? I'm not logged in. I'm logged in mine. Let's see. Such a pain. Okay, copy that, because, yeah. I apologize again for my noisy keyboard, for one, and my noisy son, for another, who you will hear manic laughter as he's watching something on YouTube. Who would do that? Okay. Got that out of the way. Good deal. I don't have a podcast, but I have debated about getting one. Hi, Lou. Welcome back. I don't know if it's easier or harder than a YouTube channel. I've been fairly regular. I haven't missed an upload in a couple of years. So are you leaving, Lou? Thank you for stopping by. So I suppose I could keep a podcast on a regular basis. I'm not sure who would be interested or how to market that. I'm terrible at marketing these things, I have to say. So, yeah, I don't have a podcast, but I have thought about it. Swamp Dweller has one, and Mr. X Dreams has one, or he's getting one up, and he's got some good stuff there. You know, they did get rid of Hangouts, and it really, really stinks, Busy, because you're stuck with just me. You know, I mean, it was great to have others on here to help carry the conversation. But anyway, Banshee Ba, welcome, welcome. That's true. That's true, Heidi. I've been meaning to look into that. Maybe I'll do that. I suppose I could use the same audio for both. So yeah, that would work out well. That would work out well. How are you all doing tonight? Oh no. See if you can get it to work, Busy, because you know, I'm such a genius at this stuff. You know, it might still be. Last time I tried. Hi, sexy grandma darkness. Good to see you. The link wasn't there for it, just for the camera, and I don't have a camera, so yeah. I was trying to get it up and running because I usually use Google Hangouts. So I know. I don't know why they're getting rid of it. It was so easy and to use and just great, Busy. It was. I loved Google Hangouts. And just to have, you know, other YouTubers just come and hang out was so fun. So, yep. I hope everybody's not too hot and overdoing it this fine summer evening. Oh, my tea's just about right. The heat is awful. And I know, Sexy Grandma Darkness, you are out east where the humidity is horrible. That's one thing. At least we usually have dry air here. So that's good. That's good. So yeah, heat can be miserable for sure. Doc Who, I am sure. I am sure it is. Yeah. Oof. Yeah, that's hot, Tiffany. That is way hot. That is way hot. Heidi, I heard that. I heard you guys got up that high. I mean, that's normal for me here in Utah, but up there, that's just insane. That's just absolutely insane. Oh, yeah. I'm sure no one has air conditioning. Oh, wow. That is absolutely crazy. So we'll all think cool thoughts. Okay, I'll ask your guys' opinion. Do you want When I Was Dead by Vincent O'Sullivan, or would you like The Pendulum by Ray Bradbury? Decide which of those you'd like me to read first. Banshee Ba, do you often get a chick in your eggs? Oh, I'm sure it would have, Heidi. That would have been just miserable to be in school. Wow. That's crazy. That's crazy. I've got a swamp cooler, which I am so grateful for. And because I live in a desert-like environment, it works. So that's good. We're supposed to get a heat wave next week, too, I think. So crazy. I know the street signs down in Arizona were melting. The paint was melting off the street signs last year. So I wonder if it's going to get that bad again. Oh, loves to your baby, Heidi. The pendulum. Okay, I will go ahead. That's the first one. Yep. The lake is always a good idea, Banshiba. Okay, the pendulum is from 1939 by Ray Bradbury. It is in the public domain because it was not reviewed or renewed. The pendulum, up and down, back and forth, up and down. First, the quick flit skyward, gradually slowing, reaching the pinnacle of the curve, poising a moment, then flashing earthward again, faster and faster, at a nauseating speed, reaching the bottom and hurtling aloft on the opposite side, up and down, back and forth, up and down. How long it had continued this way, Layville didn't know. It might have been millions of years he had spent sitting here in the massive glass pendulum, watching the world tip one way and another, up and down, dizzily before his eyes until they ached. Since the first they had locked him in the pendulum's round glass head and set it swinging, it had never stopped or changed. Continuous, monotonous movements over and above the ground. So huge was this pendulum that it shadowed 100 feet or more with every majestic sweep of its gleaming shape. Dangling from the metal intestines of the shiny machine overhead, it took 3 or 4 seconds for it to traverse the 100 feet one way, 3 to 4 seconds to come back. The prisoner of time, that's what they called him now fettered to the very machine he had planned and constructed. A prisoner of time. A prisoner of time. With every swing of the pendulum, it echoed in his thoughts. Forever like this until he went insane. He tried to focus his eyes on the arching hotness of the earth as it swept past beneath him. They had laughed at him a few days before. Or was it a week? A month? A year? He didn't know. This ceaseless pitching had filled him with an aching confusion. They had laughed at him when he said, some time before all this, he could bridge time gaps and travel into futurity. He had designed a huge machine to warp space, invited 30 of the world's most gifted scientists to help him finish his colossal attempt to scratch the future wall of time. The hour of the accident spun back to him now through misted memory. The display of time machine to the public. The display of the time machine to the public. The exact moment when he stood on the platform with 30 scientists and pulled the main switch. The scientists, all of them, blasted into ashes from wild electric flames before the eyes of 2 million witnesses who had come to the laboratory or were tuned in by television at home. He had slain the world's greatest scientists. He recalled the moment of shocked horror that followed. Something radically wrong had happened to the machine. He, Layville, the inventor of the machine, had staggered backward, his clothes flaming and eating up about him. No time for explanations. Then he had collapsed in the blackness of pain and numbing defeat. Swept to a hasty trial, Layville faced jeering throngs calling out for his death. "Destroy the time machine," they cried, "and destroy this murderer with it." Murderer? And he had tried to help humanity. This was his reward? One man had leapt onto the tribunal platform at the trial, crying, "No! Don't destroy the machine! I have a better plan. A revenge for this man." Sorry, that's habit. His finger pointed at Layville, where the inventor sat unshaven and haggard. His eyes of failure glazed. "We shall rebuild his machine, take his precious metals, and put up a monument to his slaughtering. We'll put him on exhibit for life within his executioning device." The crowd roared approval like thunder shaking the tribunal hall. Then, pushing hands, days in prison, months, finally led forth into the hot sunshine. He was carried in a small rocket car to the center of the city. Shock of what he saw brought him back to reality. They had rebuilt his machine into a towering timepiece with a pendulum. He stumbled forward, urged on by thrusting hands, listening to the roar of thousands of voices, damning him. Into the transparent pendulum head they pushed him and clamped it tight with weldings. Then they set the pendulum swinging and stood back. Slowly, very slowly, it rocked back and forth, increasing in speed. Layville had pounded futilely at the glass, screaming. The faces became blurred, were only tearing pink blobs before him. On and on like this. For how long? He hadn't minded it so much at first. That first night he couldn't sleep. But it was not uncomfortable. Okay, I just lost my place. There we go. I'm just checking the chat. Let's see. Okay, we're able to grab a generator. Okay. I'll check it up later. Okay. The lights of the city were comets with tails that pelted from right to left like foaming fireworks. But as the night wore on, he felt a gnawing in his stomach that grew worse. He got very sick and vomited. The next day he couldn't eat anything. They never stopped the pendulum, not once. Instead of letting him eat quietly, they slid the food down the stem of the pendulum in a special tube, in little round parcels that plunked at his feet. The first time he attempted to eat, he was unsuccessful. It wouldn't stay down. In desperation, he hammered against the cold glass with his fists until they bled, crying hoarsely, but he heard nothing but his own weak, fear-racked words muffled in his ears. After some time had elapsed, he got so that he could eat, even sleep while traveling back and forth this way. They allow him a small glass loops on the floor and leather thongs with which he tied himself down at night, and slept a soundless slumber without sliding. People came to look at him. He accustomed his eyes to the swift flight and followed their curiosity-etched faces, first close by the middle, then far away to the right, middle again, and to the left. He saw the faces gaping speaking soundless words, laughing and pointing at the prisoner of time traveling forever nowhere. But after a while, the town people vanished, and it was only tourists who came and read the sign that said, "This is the prisoner of time, John Layville, who killed 30 of the world's finest scientists." The school children on the electrical moving sidewalk stopped to stare in childish awe. The prisoner of time. Once he thought of that title, but it was ironic that he should invent a time machine and have it converted into a clock, and that he, in its pendulum, should mete out the years, traveling with time. He couldn't remember how long it had been. The days and nights ran together in his memory. His unshaven cheeks had developed a short beard, and then ceased growing. How long a time? How long? One day they sent down a tube after he ate and vacuumed up the cell, disposing of any wastes. Once in a great while they sent him a book, but that was all. The robots took care of him now. Evidently the humans thought it a waste of time to bother over their prisoner. The robots brought the food, cleaned the pendulum and cell, oiled the machinery, worked tirelessly from dawn until sun's crimson westward. At this rate it could keep on for centuries. But one day, as Layville stared at the city and its people in the blur of ascent and descent, he perceived a swarming darkness that extended to the heavens. The city rocket ships that crossed the sky on pillars of scarlet flame darted helplessly, frighteningly for shelter. The people ran like water splashes on the tiles, screaming soundlessly. Alien creatures fluttered down, great gelatinous masses of black that sucked the life out of all. Over the whirling wheels and roaring bowels of the metal creature, once a time machine. An hour later they dwindled away over the horizon and never came back. The city was dead. Up and down, Layville went on his journey to nowhere. In his prison, a strange smile etched on his lips. A week or more, he knew, he would be the only man alive on Earth. Elation flamed within him. This was his victory. Where the other men had planned the pendulum as a prison, it had been an asylum against annihilation now. Day after day, the robots still came, worked, unabated by the visitation of black hordes. They came every week, brought food, tinkered, checked, oiled, cleaned, up and down, back and forth. The pendulum. 1,000 years must have passed before the sky again showed life over the dead earth. A silvery bullet of space dropped from the clouds, steaming, and hovered over the dead city, where now only a few solitary robots performed their tasks. In the gathering dusk, the lights of the metropolis glimmered on. Other automatons appeared on the rampways, like spiders on twisting webs, scurrying about, checking, oiling, working their crisp mechanical manner. And the creatures in the alien projectile found the time mechanism, the pendulum swinging up and down, back and forth, up and down. The robots still cared for it, oiled it, tinkering. 1,000 years this pendulum had swung. Made of glass, the round disc at the bottom was, but now, when food was lowered by the robots through the tube, it lay untouched. Later, when the vacuum tube came down and cleaned out the cell, it took that very food with it. Back and forth, up and down. the visitors saw something inside the pendulum. Pressed close to the glass side of the cell was a face of a whitened skull, a skeleton visage that stared out over the city with empty sockets and an enigmatic smile wreathing its lipless teeth, back and forth, up and down. The strangers from the void stopped the pendulum in its course, ceased its swinging, and cracked open the glass cell, exposing the skeleton to view. And in the gleaming light of the stars, the skull face continued its weird grinning, as if it knew it had conquered something, had conquered time. The prisoner of time, Layville, had indeed traveled along the centuries, and the journey was at an end. Anyway, are you still here, my darlings? The chat seems to have gone quiet. I hope it's still working. Oh, yep, I can hear. All right. So that was a very early Bradbury, reminiscent of what, Wally, Pit and the Pendulum, and all sorts of things. Oh, that's good. That's good. I'm glad you were listening. It's fun to find the old public domain stories that are by some more well-known authors. They are usually published in the old science fiction magazines, and they're so fun to find. So, anyway, is there anything I missed? I'm going to sneak back and see what I missed, although I'm reading it in reverse. Okay. All right. Ah, Richard, welcome. Welcome, welcome. Oh, that's very kind of you, Lou. Thank you very much. Anyway, is there any questions, comments before I start into the next story? And is there any authors you want to see if I can find? If they have any public domain works. It has been a while, Richard. How is your new job going? I found this wonderful wiki source that has public domain stories for different authors. Welcome, Michael. Welcome. It's good to see you all here. Well, you go and enjoy your supper, MD Who, and thank you so much for showing up and coming to support me. You rock so much. And I wish I could have you on here, but like I said, the Google Chat thing is, I couldn't find it last time I tried, so yeah. Fun, huh? Okay. Oh, Perry was here, but I don't know if he's here now. Okay. You know, I think I've done a story by her, Tiffany. The thing is, I don't want to read it out without their permission. Lou, I live in northern Utah, where we have hot summers but good skiing. Bye, MD Who. Thank you so much for coming. Let's see. Oh, there is an Agatha Christie, but you know, they are kind of too long. I was going to do that on a video. Definitely too long. Yes, actually, Banshee Ba, I do have another poem that was written by Ray Bradbury back in the day. I actually thought about maybe doing The Raven, if you guys are interested in that. Richard, you did. And that's why I asked how your new job was, because I'm glad you're not doing anything dangerous. Creighton, welcome, welcome. And I thought about the rhyme of the Ancient Mariner, but that is a dang long poem, to be honest. But, The Raven would be a good one. Let's see. Okay. Well, Lou, we were talking about how hot it is all over just a little bit ago. So yeah, it's bad. Gotta love summer. Banshee Ba, that is so sweet of you. Thank you so very much. You get to choose what poem. Do you want The Raven, or do you have another one in mind? Okay, The Raven it is. Let's see here. My microphone's going to make... Oh, no, because I held it right. Okay. Oh, yes. Lou, we talked about that too. I do indeed have it very dry here, which I'm grateful for. And now, for Banshee Ba, The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe. Once upon a midnight dreary, while I pondered, weak and weary, over many a quaint and curious volume of forgotten lore, while I nodded, nearly napping, suddenly there came a tapping, as if someone gently rapping at my chamber door. "'Tis some visitor," I muttered, tapping at my chamber door. Only this and nothing more. Ah, distinctly I remember, it was in the bleak December, and each separate dying ember wrought its ghost upon the floor. Eagerly I wished the morrow, vainly I had sought to borrow from my books surcease of sorrow, sorrow for the lost Lenore, for the rare and radiant maiden whom the angels name Lenore, nameless here evermore. and the silken sad uncertain rustling of each purple curtain thrilled me, filled me with fantastic terrors never felt before, so that now, to still the beating of my heart, I stood repeating, "'Tis some visitor entreating entrance at my chamber door, some late visitor entreating entrance at my chamber door. This it is, and nothing more." Presently my soul grew stronger, hesitating then no longer. "Sir," I said, "or madam, truly your forgiveness I implore. But the fact is I was napping, and so gently you came rapping, and so faintly you came tapping at my chamber door, that I scarce was sure I heard you. Ere I opened wide the door. Darkness there, and nothing more. Deep into that darkness peering, long I stood there wondering, fearing, doubting, dreaming dreams nor mortals ever dreamed to dream before. But the silence was unbroken, and the stillness gave no token, and the only word there spoken was the whispered word, Lenore. This I whispered, and an echo murmured back the word, Lenore. Merely this, and nothing more. Back into the chamber turning, all my soul within me burning, soon again I heard it tapping, somewhat louder than before. "Surely," said I, "surely that is something at my window lattice. Let me see then what thereat is, and this mystery explore. Let my heart be still a moment, and this mystery explore. 'Tis the wind and nothing more." Open here I flung the shutter, when with many a flirt and flutter there stepped a stately raven of the saintly days of yore. Not the least obeisance made he, not a minute stopped or stayed he, but with a mien of lord or lady, perched above my chamber door, perched upon a bust of Pallas, just above my chamber door, perched and sat, and nothing more. Then this ebony bird beguiling my sad fancy into smiling, by the grave and stern decorum of the countenance it wore. "Though thy crest be shorn and shaven, thou," I said, "art sure no craven, ghastly grim and ancient raven, wandering from the nightly shore. Tell me what thy lordly name is on the night's Plutonian shore." Quoth the raven, "Nevermore." Much I marveled this ungainly fowl to hear discourse so plainly, though it answered little meaning, little relevance bore. For we cannot help agreeing that no living human being ever yet was blessed with seeing bird above his chamber door, bird or beast upon the sculpted bust above his chamber door, and with such name as Nevermore. But the raven, sitting lonely on the pallid bust, spoke only that one word, as if his soul in that one word he did outpour. Nothing further than he uttered, not a feather than he fluttered, till I scarcely more than muttered, "Other friends have flown before, on the morrow he will leave me, as my hopes have flown before." Then the bird said, "Nevermore." Startled at the stillness broken by reply so aptly spoken, "Doubtless," said I, "what it utters, is it only stock and store, caught from some unhappy master, whom unmerciful disaster followed fast and followed faster, till his songs once burden bore, till the dirges of his hope that melancholy burden bore, of never, nevermore." But the raven still beguiling, all my fancy into smiling. Straight I wheeled a cushioned seat in front of bird and bust and door. Then upon the velvet sinking, I betook myself to linking fancy upon fancy, thinking what this ominous bird of yore, what this grim, ungainly, ghastly, gaunt, and ominous bird of yore meant in croaking, nevermore. This I sat engaged in guessing, but no syllable expressing, to the fowl whose fiery eyes now burned into my bosom's core. This and more I sat divining, with my head at ease reclining, on the cushion's velvet lining, with the lamplight gloated over. But whose velvet violet lining, with the lamplight gloating o'er, she shall press, nevermore. Then methought an air grew denser, perfumed from an unseen censer, swung by seraphim, whose footfalls tinkled on the tufted floor. Wretch, I cried, thy God hath lent thee, by these angels he hath sent thee, respite, respite and nepenthe from the memories of Lenore. Quaff, oh quaff this kind nepenthe, and forget this lost Lenore. Quoth the raven, nevermore. Prophet, said I, thing of evil, prophet still, if bird or devil, whether tempter sent or whether tempest tossed thee here ashore, desolate yet undaunting, on this desert land enchanted, on this home of horror haunted, tell me truly, I implore, is there balm in Gilead? Tell me, I implore. Quoth the raven, nevermore. Prophet, said I, thing of evil, prophet still, if bird or devil, by that heaven that bends above, by that God we both adore, tell this soul with sorrow laden, if, within the distant Aidenn, it shall clasp a sainted maiden, whom the angels name Lenore, clasp a rare and radiant maiden, whom the angels name Lenore. Quoth the raven, nevermore. Be that word our sign in parting, bird or fiend, I shriek, upstarting, get thee back into the tempest and the night's Plutonian shore. Leave no black plume as a token of that lie thy soul hath spoken. Leave my loneliness unbroken. Quit the bust above my door. Take thy beak from out my heart, and take thy form from off my door. Quoth the raven, nevermore. And the raven, never flitting, still is sitting on the pallid bust of Pallas, just above my chamber door. And his eyes have all the seeming of a demon that is dreaming, and the lamplight o'er him streaming throws his shadow on the floor. And my soul, from out that shadow that lies floating on the floor, shall be lifted nevermore. So quoth this raven. Sorry. I had to say it. Anyway, it looks like you're all maybe leaving. Oh, Terry. That's what I get for looking at Tiffany. And then Perry, it's good to see you here. Oh, wow. So, anyway, let's see. I hope you enjoyed that. I have read it once. It's hidden far away in the archives of my, I think under Valentine poetry or something. No, thank you, Banshee Ba. Thank you so much. But yes, it's naturally the poem that inspired my name. So, there you go. Perry is possibly the only one here who is not dying of heat. I'm guessing. We were all talking about how hot it is. Where for Perry, it's winter. Oh, that is a killer deal, Bathsheba. That's really a killer deal. I got a complete set of The Raven at a garage sale that was in beautiful condition, but it was a new book. So, well, I'm glad you made it, Perry. And Scott, welcome, welcome. It's 92 for Scott. Oof. So, yes. Minister E.H., welcome, welcome. Yeah, if it's 90 degrees in Alaska, we are doomed. Oh, well, Perry, I'm sorry, it's cold and raining. We had a very wet spring, so we still have green around, which is nice. Usually the mountains are yellow and brown by now, but there's still some green up there, which is lovely. Let's see. I'm going to nix that one because it's way too long. And I have some short stories that have been asked to share, open to share. So they are let's see. Oh, that's true, Richard. Forest fires. We've had so many in the past few years. Ooh, a tornado. Scott, that's scary. Minister, that sounds about perfect. If you like rain, then I guess Washington is the right state for you. Uh-huh. Well, Bathsheba, we're both close to Wyoming then, on opposite sides. Oh, we have two of you from South Dakota. Cool. That's awesome. Oh, Canada. Very nice. Very nice. So your weather's probably fairly similar to Minister's. Cold and wet. Well, nice and wet this time of year, I suppose. I'm just sitting here reading the chat, which probably is not very entertaining. I'm sorry. Okay, well, I'm letting it go silent. I shouldn't do that. In Canada, I like Canada. I've got friends up there. I really would like to go visit. There's so many places I'd love to visit. That does sound good. Some good clam chowder. Okay, I have a small one here from Sleep Spell by CLF3E7. So I'm going to read that one really quick, and you guys can continue to come up with subjects and talks. That sounds delicious, Scott. The city of rotting visage. Ratheth strode through the thick, packed streets, aside his sister, his eyes sharp and suspicious as the fox upon his face. His sister clung to his side, despite the visage of a wolf upon her head. She acted more like a terrified rabbit. Her body gave her away as easy prey. Stay close. Stay close, Tora. After this job, we'll be out of here once and for all. His sister simply nodded in response. He couldn't see it, yet he nodded in kind. They turned the corner into a dilapidated alley, striding past the exhibited and unveiled corpses. The twins didn't so much as flinch, either unaware or simply sobered to such displays. Together they take a deep breath and approach the ornately carved door. Despite the grim and dried blood around the faceless corpses, the door was immaculate and splendorous. Rotheth scowled under his mask in disgust and opened the door. Sindicorin, we are here for our final job. The Mistveil says it is so. Come forth and be unmasked. Rotheth's voice resounded unnaturally in the empty space beyond, echoing several times louder than should be normally possible. Inside was nothing but blackness. Tora squealed as the door behind them slammed shut, being the only physical thing in sight, bright as a sun amongst the unforgiving dark. A wet, wavering, and warbling whisper echoed through the nothing. Oh ho ho, so you have come for freedom, have you? Years of hard work and your weak morals, and finally you're here. Are you sure you want to do this, boy? The young man did not respond, only drew his sword. Tora, shield, speed, sharpness. The girl stepped back and began to sing. Her voice did not echo, her palms glowing and spread out before her. She sang of better times, of a world unruled by veils and castes. She sang of a world free from needless blood sport, and a world where she could finally be at peace with her brother. Rotheth growled like an animal. As he took a step forward, the abomination revealed itself. An unending expanse of bulbous, boiling flesh and masks. We will end this, Rotheth whispered before charging forward into the grasp of that which enslaved them. Anyway. Oh, all right. Okay. See you later, Tiffany. Thank you so much for showing up. Thank you so much. We'll see if we're still here. I don't know how long this stream's going to last. I don't often get a chance to stream in the evening, so, you know, you do what you can. Anyway. So how is everyone's week going so far? I've actually been working today on an audiobook I've been commissioned to do, which is so fun. I hope everyone's good too, Sexy Grandma Darkness. How many have we got in chat? 8 people. That's a lot for me. Especially with no notice whatsoever. Oh. Okay. Everybody's gone quiet again. I'm glad to hear it, Perry. Thank you, Lou. Okay, well, I'm going to read one more story, and then I'll probably close the stream. The stream. So, this is When I Was Dead by Vincent O'Sullivan. And yet my heart will not confess he owes the malady that doth my life besiege. All's well that ends well. That was the worst of Ravenel Hall. The passages were long and gloomy. The rooms were musty and dull. Even the pictures were somber, and their subjects dire. On an autumn evening, when the wind soughed and wailed through the trees in the park, and the dead leaves whistled and chattered, while the rain clamored at the windows, small wonder that folks with gentle nerves went a-straying in their wits. An acute nervous system is a grievous burden on the deck of a yacht under sunlit skies. At Ravenel, the chain of nerves was prone to clash and jangle, a funeral march. Nerves must be pampered in a tea-drinking community, and the ghost that your grandfather, with a skinful of port, could face and never tremble, sets you in your sobriety, sweating and shivering, or becoming scared, poor ghost, of your bulged eyes and dropping jaw. He quenches expectation by not appearing at all. So I am left to conclude that it was the tea which made my acquaintance afraid to stay at Ravenel. Even Wilverin gave over, and as he is in the Guards and a polo player, his nerves ought to be strong enough. On the night before he went, I was explaining to him my theory, that if you place some drops of human blood near you, and then consecrate your thoughts, you will, after a while, see before you a man or woman who will stay with you during long hours of the night, and even meet you at unexpected places during the day. I was explaining this theory, I repeat, when he interrupted me with words, senseless enough, which sent me fencing and parring strangers on my guard. "I say, Alistair, dear chap," I began, "you ought to get out of this place and go to town and knock about a bit. You really ought, you know." "Yes," I replied, "and get poisoned at the hotels by bad food, and at the clubs by bad talk, I suppose. No, thank you. Let me say that your care for my health invigorates me." "Well, you can do as you like," he says, rapping with his feet on the floor. "I'm hanged if I stay here after tomorrow, and I'll be staring mad if I do." He was my last visitor. Some weeks after his departure, I was sitting in the library with my drops of blood by me. I'd gotten my theory nearly perfect by this time, but there was one difficulty. The figure which I had ever before me was the figure of an old woman, with her hair divided in the middle, and her hair fell to her shoulders, white on one side and black on the other. She was a very complete old woman, but alas, she was eyeless, and when I tried to construct the eyes, she would shrivel and rot in my sight. But tonight I was thinking, as I had never thought before, and the eyes were just creeping into the head when I heard a terrible crash outside, as if some heavy substance had fallen. Of a sudden the door was flung open, and two maidservants entered. They glanced at the rug under my chair, and at that they turned sick white, cried on God, and huddled out. "How dare you enter the library in this manner?" I demanded sternly. No answer came back from them, so I started in pursuit. I found all the servants in the house gathered in a knot at the end of the passage. Mrs. Pebble... Sorry, just peeking at the chat. "Mrs. Pebble," I said smartly to the housekeeper, "I want those two women discharged tomorrow. It's an outrage. You ought to be more careful." but she was not attending to me. Her face was distorted with terror. "Oh, dear," she went on. "We'd all better go to the library together," says she to the others. "I am master of my own house, Mrs. Pebbles," I inquired, bringing my knuckles down with a bang on the table. None of them seemed to see or hear me. I might as well have been shrieking in a desert. I followed them down the passage and forbade them to enter the library. But they trooped past me and stood with a clutter round the hearth rug. Then 3 or 4 of them began dragging and lifting, as if they were lifting a helpless body, and stumbled with their imaginary burden over a sofa. Old Soames, the butler, stood near. "Poor young gentleman," he said with a sob. "I've known him since he was a baby. And to think of him being dead like this, and so young, too." I crossed the room. "What's all this, Soames?" I cried, shaking him roughly by the shoulders. "I'm not dead. I'm here. Here!" As he did not stir, I got a little scared. "Soames, old friend," I called. "Don't you know me? Don't you know the little boy you used to play with? Say I'm not dead, Soames. Please, Soames!" He stooped down and kissed the sofa. "I think one of the men ought to ride over to the village for the doctor. Sorry, that was supposed to be Mrs. Pebble. "I think one of the men ought to ride over to the village for the doctor, Mr. Soames," said Mrs. Pebble, and he shuffled out to give the order. Now this doctor was an ignorant dog, whom I had been forced to exclude from the house because he went about proclaiming his belief in a saving God, at the same time that he proclaimed himself a man of science. He, I was resolved, should never cross my threshold, and I followed Mrs. Pebble through the house, screaming out prohibition. But I did not even catch a groan from her, not a nod of the head, nor a cast of the eye, to show that she had heard. I met the doctor at the door of the library. "Well," I sneered, throwing my hand in his face, "have you come to teach me some new prayers?" He brushed by me as if he had not felt the blow, and knelt down by the sofa. "Rupture of a vessel on the brain, I think," he said to Soames and Mrs. Pebble after a short moment. "He has been dead some hours, poor fellow. You'd better telegraph for his sister, and I will send up the undertaker to arrange the body." "You liar!" I yelled. "You whining liar! How have you the insolence to tell my servants that I am dead, when you see me here, face to face?" He was far in the passage, with Soames and Mrs. Pebble at his heels, ere I had ended, and not one of these 3 turned around. All that night I sat in the library. Strangely enough, I had no wish to sleep, nor, during the time that followed, had I any craving to eat. In the morning the men came, and, although I ordered them out, they proceeded to minister about something I could not see. So, all day I stayed in the library or wandered about the house, and at night the men came again, bringing with them a coffin. Then, in my humor, thinking it shame that so fine a coffin should be empty, I lay the night in it, and slept a soft, dreamless sleep, the softest sleep I had ever slept. And when the men came the next day, I rested still, and the undertaker shaved me. A strange valet. On the evening after that, I was coming downstairs when I noted some luggage in the hall, and so learned that my sister had arrived. I had not seen this woman since her marriage, and I loathed her more than I loathed any creature in this ill-organized world. She was very beautiful, I think, tall and dark and straight as a ramrod. She had an unruly passion for scandal and dress. I suppose the reason I disliked her so intently was that she had a habit of making one aware of her presence when she was several yards off. At 9:30, my sister came down to the library in a very charming wrap, and I soon found that she was as insensible to my presence as the others. I trembled with rage to see her kneel down by the coffin. My coffin! But when she bent over to kiss the pillow, I threw away control. A knife, which had been used to cut strings, was lying upon the table. I seized it and drove it into her neck. She fled from the room, screaming. "Come, come," she cried, her voice quivering with anguish. "The corpse is bleeding from the nose." Then I cursed her. Thank you, Bathsheba. On the evening of the third day, there was a heavy fall of snow. About 11 o'clock, I observed that the house was filled with blacks and mutes and folk of the country who came for obsequy. Anyway, I can usually say these words. No, that's a lie. I usually have to repeat them. I went into the library and sat still and waited. Soon came the men, and they closed the lid of the coffin and bore it out on their shoulders. And yet I sat, feeling rather sadly that something of mine had been taken away. I could not think what, for half an hour perhaps, dreaming, and then I glided to the hall door. There was no trace left of the funeral, but after a while I sighted a black thread winding slowly across the white plain. "I am not dead," I moaned, and rubbed my face in the pure snow, and tossed it on the back of my neck and hair. "Sweet God, I am not dead." So quoth this raven, I don't know if this would qualify for no sleep, because we don't have resolution that our protagonist is in fact not dead. He may be. Anyway. Oh. Oh, anyway. Turkeys or turkey vultures or vultures, Bathsheba. Chicken hearts with onion gravy. Well, now the only chicken hearts you can get around here are at Brazilian restaurants. I have it on authority they're very good, but I haven't tried any. Chilled fruit salad. That sounds good. That sounds very good. Well, my dears, I think we are going to call this good. I'm so glad I got to do this. It's still, I'm going to have to change the title if I leave this up. I will leave it up. This has been a lot of fun. Thank you all for coming. Thank you. Okay, back. Oh, dear Richard, I'm just saying my goodbyes. Thank you all for coming and listening and chatting with me. I appreciate it so much. I mean, there would be no point in me doing this if it wasn't for you guys. I sound like I'm choking up, but really I'm trying not to cough. Hopefully I'll give you more notice next time I do a live stream. But I do appreciate you all for showing up. And tomorrow I have, what's coming out tomorrow? Let me think. Oh, it's a good one too. Let's see. Eastgate. Yeah, that's what it is. It's called Eastgate. It's a vampire story. I hope you enjoy it. It's a little bit noir the way I read it. So, there will be that tomorrow. Thank you guys so much again. Thank you, Banshee Ba. And I will catch you guys tomorrow in the comments. Thanks again. Bye-bye.